Welcome to Young Black Lives Honored. Be sure to subscribe, also give this video a thumbs up, and leave a respectful comment below. During morning rush hour around 9 a.m. on October 25th, 2019, a silver Nissan Altima almost ran into another car at a Shell gas station before pulling onto Mango Road in Tampa, Florida. It rolled over a median, then turned west onto Interstate 4, where unfortunately it slammed into a guardrail. Bystanders rushed to this crash scene, where they found a woman later identified as 50-year-old Helen Sabrina Mention slumped against the driver's door with her eyes closed and blood on her nose. An infant girl laid beside her but was not crying. The two were rushed to Tampa General Hospital, and heartbreakingly, 10-month-old Harlem Mention was pronounced deceased 3 days later on October 28th at 12:50 p.m. The grandmother was treated at the hospital and later released. Helen was arrested on November 4th and charged with DUI manslaughter, aggravated manslaughter of a child, careless driving, and a violation of Florida's child restraint law. The woman was booked into Hillsborough County Jail, and she appeared in a Tampa courtroom on November 8th. Then, witnesses gave details of what happened before and after the fatal crash. Mention sat quietly, wearing a red jail shirt and handcuffs throughout the proceedings. A witness, Jamila Felder, said she saw Mention at the Shell gas station on Mango Road just a few minutes before the crash. She told the court that the Nissan almost hit her car and she could see the child as the car passed. When asked if the driving appeared reckless, Felder responded yes, especially due to the presence of the baby. She followed as the Nissan made a right onto Mango Road and rolled over the median. Jamila said the car went from right to left, then turned onto the on-ramp. While she didn't witness the crash, she was present for the aftermath. According to the woman, when she arrived at the crash scene, she got out and encountered a man who carried the infant. She gave him a bag, which he used to protect the child as he placed her on top the guardrail. The baby appeared unconscious, stated Felder. Florida Highway Patrol Trooper Louis Consuegra testified that when he visited Tampa General Hospital later that day, he found Helen disoriented, confused, and slurring her words. She identified herself, but when the trooper asked about the crash, she said she had no recollection of what happened. According to Trooper Lewis, he later spoke with a nurse who reported that Mention's blood alcohol level was .226, which was more than double and almost triple the legal limit of .08. Prosecutors tried to convince Hillsborough Circuit Judge Ralph Stoddard that the woman should be held without bail, but Stoddard set bail at $100,000. Her defense attorney argued there was no direct testimony to suggest Mention was intoxicated at the time. There was only the word of a state trooper. The state, at the time of that hearing, had indeed fell short of presenting direct testimony or medical records of Mention's blood alcohol content, and no witnesses who reported smelling alcohol on her were identified. Assistant Public Defender John Grant argued that her behavior could have been due to a head injury. He suggested that the crash could have been the result of there being heavy traffic in what the troopers acknowledged was a dangerous stretch of road. Grant declared that he'd take the case to trial. Helen's father, Thomas Mention, spoke with the media while giving grace to his daughter for her decision.
Her father is coming to her defense. As Fox 13's Gloria Gomez explains, the tragedy has divided this family even more.
Thomas Mention loves and supports his daughter Helen Mention. but he knows she is in a tough legal mess.
I don't think she want to see another drink when she get hot. She's a church-going person, too.
Thomas says there was a car seat in the vehicle, but Helen chose not to use it. In fact, he says other family members have done the very same thing.
For the baby not to cry, they hold on to the baby. They wouldn't train the baby to sit in the car seat.
Thomas says before the crash, Helen was in a bad marriage that led her to heavy drinking. He says his daughter is a good person who just made a bad decision that day. The tragedy has strained her relationship with her own son, who is Harlem's father.
He really don't even like talking about it and where she's at.
While Thomas says he can't afford the best defense for his daughter, he hopes prosecutors will cut his daughter a break.
I'm hoping and praying.
Dr. A. Perkins, with the Hillsborough County Medical Examiner's Office, conducted the autopsy on Harlem. Her cause of death was determined as blunt impact to head with fractures of vault and base of skull with laceration of brain, and the manner of death was determined as an accident. Passenger of automobile seated on driver's lap impacted fixed object. According to a report by Florida's Department of Children and Families dated September 25, 2020, Helen was driving her 15-year-old grandson to school on the fateful morning, and while in transit, baby Harlem, who was secured in her car seat, began to cry. Per the grandmother's request, the teen removed his sibling from the car seat, and the grandmother continued the commute with the infant seated on her lap. The crash occurred sometime after she dropped the teen off to school. Following admission to the hospital, Helen was tested for illicit substances, and her results were positive for alcohol and white illegal substances. Medical professionals advised that Harlem sustained multiple injuries, including a skull fracture and a brain injury, and they did not expect her to survive. DCF interviewed family members who said Harlem resided full-time with her parents and the teen resided with his mother, but visited his father, who also is the infant's father, regularly. Approximately 1 week preceding the accident, the children's father began working an overnight shift, and Helen began assisting with the children to permit the father to rest following his shift. The teen, who was in the vehicle on the morning of the incident, denied that the grandmother was impaired or driving in an unsafe manner while he was in the vehicle. He later admitted to his mother that the grandmother was drinking while in transit to his school on the morning of the accident, and his mother subsequently reported such. State court records showed Helen's arrest record dated back to 1991. She spent 2.5 years in state prison for a white illegal substance conviction and had numerous citations for infractions such as driving with a license cancelled, suspended, or revoked, and violation of open container laws on her record, with the most recent being for reckless driving in 2018 following a crash. Based on the interviews and evidence gathered during the course of the investigation, the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office Child Protection Investigations Division closed their investigation on July 22, 2020, finding that there was identified maltreatment, including inadequate supervision and substance misuse. The grandmother was released on bond in March 2021. On July 5, 2022, Helen declined a plea deal offered by prosecutor Christine Brown in a virtual court hearing. The deal included 15 years in prison, followed by 2 years of community control and 3 years of drug offenders probation. Mention wanted a much lighter sentence of 4 years behind bars and suggested pleading guilty in open court, then letting the judge decide her fate.
Thanks very much. A Tampa grandmother accused of driving drunk and causing the death of her own grandchild is preparing to go to prison. Harlem Mention is her name. She says she's ready to plead guilty if she can get a light sentence, but that's going to be up to a Tampa judge.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I appreciate that.
So far, she's passed on a plea deal.
It was 15 years, followed by 2 years of community control, followed by 3 years of drug offender probation.
But Mention wants a much lighter sentence of 4 years. Her attorney requested what's called an advisory hearing. That's when the judge reviews all the facts in the case and then gives them a sense of how she might rule. Judge Barbara Twine-Thomas didn't give them a number, but more like a range.
I'm not convinced that 4 years would be appropriate.
And I understand, Your Honor.
And I'm equally not convinced that 15 years is what's required under the circumstances.
Okay, that gives me a little more clarification.
Prosecutors say baby Harlem was sitting on her lap and was crushed to death. The baby's mother left heartbroken and in tears. The judge having the final word.
If this was a matter of where the regrettable death of this beautiful 10-month-old child potentially might have occurred, even though she had been restrained in a car seat, or some other facts. But the facts that I read was that the infant was on her lap. I have no further comments.
A review of Hillsborough County Clerk of Court's online records showed that a disposition was scheduled for October 25th, 2022. I will be following the outcome of this case, so be sure to subscribe so you don't miss an update. May the family and friends of Harlem Mention find solace in the happy memories, and may her soul rest in perpetual peace. Thank you.